Hello and thank you for joining us today here at the Bramble Patch. My name is Wendy and on Technicals today we have Alicia. It's a beautiful day outside today, the sun's shining, so that's a definite bonus for the day. Today we're going to be looking at how to use a 60-degree ruler. We do actually stock these. This is the Creative Grids 60-degree ruler, and as always the instructions inside are actually really good and quite easy to follow, but it's always nice to see a demonstration on what you can actually do with the rulers. So I've made a few different samples up. By any means, there are so many different things you can do with this ruler. There really are. So I've just done a few little samples just to show you a couple of different layouts, and then I'll show you the different widths of strips and how many strips you can use. But like I say, there are a lot more things that you can do with this ruler than I have time to actually show you within this tutorial. So first of all, you can see here, I've made a little cushion. I bought a lot of this particular fabric. It's a beautiful range. And I've made myself a quilt. So I'm making myself some different things to go with it, a cushion, placemats, table runner, and I just really like this one. So this one is made with 5 different strips. As you actually make it up, and I'll show you how to do that in a little while. So that's the little cushion that I made. Just pinned up behind me, you can see a few different layouts. These will be placemats. Also, I'm hoping that you can see by the variation of fabrics that I've used that you can use modern, you can use very contemporary, traditional, batiks. Virtually anything goes with this particular technique. So this one has got 3 fabrics in it. This has got some of the K-Fassic and the Tulip Pink. This one is much more traditional. I particularly like that one. This one is a much longer table runner, and that one's using 3 fabrics once again. And I'm hoping you can see this one. This is a very large mat that I've done, and that will go in the centre of a table with a nice plant in the middle of it. This one actually uses 22 triangles. This uses 10, the little placemats are 6. And we'll just go through a few little different bits as we work through it. So first of all, I'm sure you can see just laying here, this is one I particularly like, this fabric. So this is Liberty fabric, and just in blacks, greys and whites, but really simple and very effective. So here I'm just going to show you what you can do with different types of fabric. So this is an ombre batik. It's just done from 1 fabric, and I'll show you how to do the orientation of this as we go through it. So that is just 1 piece of fabric, and I brought a few of these particular ones in just to show you how the colours change as you actually go through them. So depending on which area you cut will depend on the finished effect that you get from it. I use a lot of these in landscapes, and there's a tutorial coming up in a few weeks that I'm currently working on that you will be able to do something totally different to what you can see me doing today with no rulers or anything. So these are the ombre batiks, which are one of my favourites. And I'll just show you, we have a very large selection of these. As you've heard me say before, I do like batiks. When you use them, when you cut them, where you put them, they stay, they don't fray, they do behave themselves. And like I say, we have a beautiful range of colour tones. We've got blues and greens. This one is a lovely one, actually. I've actually bought quite a lot of this one myself. So there's lots and lots of things you can do, but like I say, just using an ombre to do this technique means you've got no seams to join up. Very simple. So that's just one with one fabric. This is another one just using one fabric, but this one is actually using a border fabric. You might see bolts of fabric in shops with the border fabric, thinking you can only actually use them just to put around the edge of a border or a sashing. That's not always the case. So I've brought the bolt in just so that you can see what this looks like before I started. So that's the pattern. So you get actually four different strips as you go along with that one. So that one is the border fabric. Oh. So that's the one with just a border fabric. Like I say, just one single fabric again. This one is using two fabrics. And you can do these various widths. This one, I think I cut this one. What did I cut this one? Let's have a look. I cut this 3.5 inch strips as I did it. So you join it like this, but I will show you this in a moment. And I haven't got anything made up using two, but I have done a few triangles. So for instance, if you was to lay this one out, you could lay it out so that you've got a hexagon in the center, or you could alternate and just have it working through like so. So again, even though it's only got two fabrics in, you can make it look, you know, you've got a couple of different layouts there. And that's the two fabric. Moving on to three fabrics, and this again alters and a whole new ball game, because depending where you place your fabric, you get a different look from it. So this one, the fabric was obviously the cream, the yellow polka dot, and then the K facet. So I've got the polka dot going through. I could have laid it out differently, which would have given it a completely different look. You don't have to go dark, medium, light. You can go whichever way around you want to. But that's a particular layout that I really like. So that's one done in a very modern fabric. And that's the same as this one here, and the blue one as well. This one is also done with three fabrics. This is the little placemat that matches my cushion. And this is the little table run that I've done. Again, coordinating with that. And I've done a slightly different layout on this one as to the one with the twist. I've got the hexagon in the center, and then I've extended it around the edge. And I think that works really nicely. Moving on from there, I'll just pop that on there. Oh, you can use 4 strips. Oops, there we go. This is done with 4 strips, and I cut these 1.5 inches wide. So that's the strip on that one. And if that one is put together, now instead of putting this into a hexagon, you can actually just do this as strips going across a quilt, or as a border going around. So what I've done with this one, I've actually just done 2 small sections for you to see. So that is the section of fabric that I've done. So I actually made the strip up like this, and then I've cut some plain single triangles just from individual fabrics, and I've alternated them as I've gone through. So then I thought I would make another strip up the same, so that what we could do, if I was to join these together, we could have opposites. So you've got a single fabric triangle opposite a strip piece. Or what you could do is turn it around and you can make diamonds. So we've got the diamond here, and if I was to add a piece to this side, you would then get the strip diamonds. That doesn't join up because obviously it's not sewn. But hopefully you can see all the different things. What you could do, if you was to do the plain triangles in between, in for instance, in this could be a cream, and then it would showcase the diamonds right the way through it. And you could actually do your strips different colours. So you can use all your scraps up, as long as you've got long strips. I tend to use pieces as well in some of these that I've used. They're the pieces that were left over from when I've done a binding. So I've just pressed it open and used those. So that's something you can do. So that's done with 4 pieces, but you can do that with, it doesn't matter how many strips that you've got in it, you can still achieve that look. Moving on from there, this is another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there we go. That one has got 6 pieces. And with this one, I've got the other set, because as you can see, I've got all of these matching. I didn't want them going up and down. I wanted the hexagonal shape coming right the way through, because this matches another quilt that I've already actually finished. I've just got to get it quilted now. So that's the other one that you can actually do. So let's take a look and see how we actually achieve the look. So first of all, what you need to do is to piece some fabric. Now, it's ideal if you actually use something the width of a bolt, because then you'll get more cuts out of it. But for the demonstration purposes, I'm using just offcuts of fat quarters, because I don't have very much room here, and it just allows me to highlight what you can actually do. So with this one, I've cut the strips. The strips on this are 2.5 inches. So if you have any leftover jelly roll strips, they can be incorporated into it. And you don't actually have to do all the strips the same width. I've got all mine are 2.5 inches, but if you wanted to do them different widths, you can do. Now, when you start to put your strips together, just like you would if you do a Bargello quilt, you will sew from one end on the first strip down, and then when you sew the next row, you will sew from the bottom end up. If you sew everything from the same way, you will find that it will curve and banana, and that's what we don't want, because you will have curved seams in it where you want actually straight ones. So I would recommend you go sew down row 1, up row 2. And the more strips you have in it, the more it would banana if you don't do it that way. The other thing that I recommend that you do is don't start with all your fabrics in a straight line. Because if I can find my ruler here, if I was to have started all of my fabrics here, by the time I put my ruler on, so what will happen, the ruler has a flat piece at the end, and you want to situate that right at the edge of the top of your fabric. So at the top strip, I'm going to place that flat edge. Now, these rulers are very, very clever. So it has black and white lines on it. The black lines mark the inch and the half inch. So it goes 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. The white lines on it indicate the quarters. So it's 1 1/4, 1 3/4, 2 1/4, 2 3/4. So it allows you to actually make sure that you've got your ruler placed actually on your sew line to keep it from drifting at an angle. And that helps a lot actually. And they've got the really nice non-slip piece on the back as well. So first of all, I'm making sure that I've got my flat end at the top of my fabric. And if I look here, because this strip was cut at 2.5 inches, and I've put one seam in it. So therefore that strip should now measure 2.25. So if I settle the 2.25 white line on there, that will also now allow me to settle the 4.25 line here, because the middle one only measures 2 inches in width because it has 2 seams on it. And that means that the bottom one will sit perfectly on the 6.5 inch line. So all of those 3 lines are in order, the way they're supposed to be, completely straight. Now, if I was to have joined all of these fabrics here, and I push my ruler, keeping those 2 important lines and the bottom edge line on here, if these were all straight, this fabric was what would be discarded. By staggering it as you actually join them, it means it may allow you to get an extra triangle out at the other end. Okay, and trust me, it's really worth doing. If you're not quite sure how far to stagger it, use your ruler to actually place it on your first strip to see where the next one's going to be situated. But do account for the 1/4 inch seam allowance. Just step it in a little bit and then keep going up, and that will graduate that line going through. So it means that I'm going to have a very, very minimal amount of wastage, and it might mean I can get an extra one out at the other end. It just depends on what width you're going to finish up with your strip. You might only want to be doing 3.5 inch strips or 5 inch strips, or you might want to do it the full width of the triangle. So just bear that in mind as you go. Another thing that this ruler can be used for is if you want to cut 60-degree diamonds for English paper piecing. You may choose to cut your papers using this, and also it's a good way to cut your fabric to go on the papers before you either use a glue pen to attach them with or to tack it. And that way you've got something really nice and neat and accurate as you've gone through it. So just bear that in mind, that you can use this ruler for that as well. So I've now got the 2.25 inch white line situated on that seam. I've got the 4.25 here, and I've got the 6.5 inch right the way across the bottom. Got a new blade in my rotary cutter before I came through. So by doing that, that's the only waste I've got. I haven't got inches and inches that I'm going to discard. So I don't think that's bad at all. And I'm going to just push that away. Always make sure you're pushing your rotary cutter away from you, never draw it towards you. So I've now got a perfect triangle cut there. So obviously I was using the orientation with the point pointing away from me. All I'm going to do now is rotate and turn that ruler through 180 degrees. So the point is now pointing towards me. And once again, I'm going to place that down, and I'm putting the flat line at the top. And because these are all the same width, once again, I've got the 2.25, the 4.25, and the 6.5 inch line, and I will just cut. It's my second one. Here we go. And just place that on there. If you find you had a little wobble at all, just tidy that first edge up before you start cutting again. Okay. And I can get another one out of that. And this was just using strips from a fat quarter. Now, if you're going to do use a fat quarter and use your bits and bobs up doing this, then just make sure that when you do it, you are pressing the seams in the same way, because otherwise they won't nest together properly. If, for instance, you want to do something going round in a hexagon where you're going to have all of these matching and you're going to cut 2 different strips, then press the second strip. If you could press the first strip going away from you and the second seam allowance coming down towards you, then they will nest. Because if I roll these over, you can actually see that the seams are going the same way. So if I'm going to do something where I want to have the same visual triangle, I will cut 2 strips, and that way I've got 1 strip going up and 1 strip coming down, and that way they'll nest together properly. Whereas if I want to put this in it, like so, this seam is now going one way and this is going the other, and that way it will all fit together beautifully. So somewhere here I should have some more. Let's just okay. I'm just going to trim these up. Right. So there's my, there we go, there's my ruler. So once again, I'm just going to place this on here, and I'm taking it as far across as I can, just to make sure that I'm maximising all the fabric there. Okay. This builds up really, really quickly. You can probably see from how many samples that I've made that it grows incredibly well. Okay. And my last one there, I can get another one out of. There we go. I'm just going to cut another couple because I'm just going to show the layout of the black and white one that I showed you earlier. So these were strips that were left over from sessions, actually, that I changed my mind on the design of something. So I thought I'd just use them up in this. And all these little offcuts here, they will go in my little bag if I want to do crumb quilting, scrap quilting, anything like that, and make use of them. So we don't waste anything, which is what I like to do. Okay, so we've now got these cut, and I'm just going to show you the layout that we can do. And this is one of my favourite layouts for actually the table runner. So what I'm going to do first of all, I'm going to take 3 strips with the red at the top. And I'm going to lay them side by side. So I've got the red going all the way around. So I'm hoping you can see that. Move it so you can see it properly. There. Now I'm going to take the cream, okay, and I'm going to change the orientation. So as you can see, where's my black one? Here we go. I've done this one the other way around. That's the white. Okay, so that's the orientation I've got there. I'll do it to match this one just so that you can see what I'm doing. So I've placed 2 with the red strips here, and now I need to take 3 with the cream. So we go 1, 2, 3. So I'm hoping the camera's going to pick that up. Okay, and just lay that over there because I don't want to be holding it. Now we're going to take 3 of the ones with the red strip, and place 1, 2, oh, sorry about that, 2, and my third one with a red, sure I've got one here, 3, like so. Then that just remains for me to do the infill here, which is the cream, and we'll have 1 on the end and 1 there. And that gives you your layout. I can move that in the right place. There we go. That gives you the layout for the little twisted table runner. And if you want to, you can actually elongate it like I have in this one. I've put some extra strips in the middle because I wanted this one to be much longer. But it's still got that lovely twist coming all the way through and around. And I think that looks rather nice. They look lovely on the table, everything. So once you've done that, I'll just set those out of the way. All you need to do now is join them together. And the way to join them together is the way you would expect to. You will join this row together and this row together. Now, when you do it, the most important thing is to actually make sure you press all the seams the same way. Because what we want to do, we want the seams to nest so that when you actually have to join the bottom section to it, you'll have the seams going in opposite direction and they'll nest nicely together. So the other thing that I'm going to hopefully try to be able to show you is if we take this, and like I said, you've got the piece, the flat piece at the edge of the ruler. When you place these together, just make sure that they sit on top of each other. And I would recommend that you actually sew from the inner point, because what we need there is we need the seam allowance to be made, and we don't want that to wander off, otherwise you'll lose your point in the centre. So as you can see, these actually, I mean, I haven't pinned them or anything, but you can see that they just sit together beautifully. So when I put my needle, my 1/4 inch foot here, the needle will automatically sit just here. And as you sew down, that will give you the seam allowance. So I'm just going to quickly do that, because this all helps so you don't get any lumps and bumps in the middle of it, and it just sits really, really flat. So I'm just going to place that under the foot like so. I'll find my foot pedal, I'll be well awake. And I'm just going to start sewing. It would help if I had a pair of scissors. That's it. And I haven't pinned it, but if you feel more comfortable pinning it, then just do that. I used to do a lot of pinning. I think now, because I do so much, I tend just to go for it. And generally, I'm quite happy. Just put my little thread saver under there. And just nip that off there. Now, I'm hoping that the camera will pick up where the flat edge is across the top. That's where my needle has gone in. So it's carried on sewing all the way down. And you saw that I didn't actually pin it. So if I now open that up like so, you'll see that these have joined perfectly. So I'm just going to give that a little press. And I generally press to the left when I'm doing this, like so. And I do like to, I press from the back first. So when I say I press to the left, when you turn it over, it's actually pointing to the right. And that actually would go just there. Now on this one, you have no seams to match up because it's completely straight, okay? You have no seams in this edge at all. So just roll that over onto it. And once again, make sure you sew from the inner point. Now, when I place this on, you will be able to see, because this is now in the opposite direction, the flat edge is here. So I don't have a flat edge to join up. So if I make sure that these points here are level, you'll get a little piece here that sticks out, which is absolutely correct. Because when my needle goes in, it will go in here, and that will give me the seam allowance. So let me just show you how that works. Okay. Okay, so I'm just placing that down. So I've got the edge of my foot on the edge of my work. And I'm just going to sew that straight the way up because I've got no seams to match up at all. Like so. Now then, what we're going to see now, we've got that little diamond, little triangle pointing out there. But here now, I have the seam allowance. It's stepped in, and that's what we're looking to achieve. So once again, I'll lay it right side down, so it's wrong side up. I'm going to press that. And then give that another little press. And basically, we just keep going. Okay? So you go all the way along on the top one, and then you'll do exactly the same on the bottom. And because you've got all these flat points here, this is the only one here that you don't have the flat edge on, because the flat edge on this one is over on the middle section here. And that will all go together perfectly, like so. Let me just take that. There we go. So remember, press all the seams one way on both sections, and then when you join them together, they will actually nest together properly. There's so many different layouts that you can do with this one. Like I say, I've got carried away. It grows very, very quickly. If you've got bits and bobs left over, or if you ever want to upsize a quilt, then that can be done really, really easily. And I'm sure if you have got this ruler, you will find that you can use it time and time again for so many different things. So that's all from us today. Hopefully we'll see you all again next week. Thank you for joining us, and bye-bye for now.